Welcome back, everybody. Well, Scott was just talking to us about the new color trends for 2020 in our homes. And now we're going to kind of carry things into a little smaller scale and just how to move color around in our lives creatively, you know, as a daily exercise, maybe. Have some. I know you've obviously gone to work on your shirt there. But, you know, and you talked about color is really important. There's a reason that adult coloring books and pages have been a big thing for the last couple of years, because everybody's looking for kind of that opportunity to de-stress and unwind, and moving color around can really affect us in a lot of different ways, like you had mentioned with our moods and behaviors.
Colors and moods are very important. It plays into everything. It plays into feng shui, it plays into the way you feel in the morning, it plays into how what you dress, what you put on in the morning. So color across the board is so important.
Yes, and there's lots of different ways. You know, just having color around us by having some art supplies readily available can affect our moods and our behavior. You know, makes it it's a happy thing to have some. You know, focus in on what kind of medium you like to work with, whether it's paints or watercolors. Having some you know, pastels, colored pencils, crayons. Just having those around and the ability to access them and use them on a daily basis.
Just elevate the attitude.
Really affect affect our moods. And there's a thing called chromotherapy, which I just learned about, and that's kind of using colors to heal. I don't know, you know, and like you had mentioned in your in the last segment there about how it stimulates different, you know, different
moods,
colors. And the reds and the yellows were good examples of that.
Yeah, so if you're suffering from anxiety or depression or just a mood altering feeling because it's cold outside and it's dark and it's dead outside.
And the cabin fever that comes into play.
Colors can definitely cure a lot of that. Yeah, you can.
And there's lots of different ways to play with it. Do you kind of do things on a regular? I know your job is creative in a, you know, all in itself. But
well, yeah, every time a client comes in, I start playing with colors, so I feel better. So more clients, less depression.
Exactly, and I have found that a really good way to just kind of play around with color too is to start experimenting with creating color wheels.
Right.
And using your pencils, you know, again, working with what you have, and then just getting out some nice quality paper and start moving that color around and get, you know, an example of those color wheels. So you really
just actually physically make the color wheel.
Yeah, exactly, like we did here. It's an excellent project to do in your sketchbooks. It gives you an opportunity to play around with all of the different colors.
Exactly.
And watch which ones are opposite each other, and you get a better connection with color.
And it's physical. It's doing something with color. It's movement. And it's a great therapy for everyone.
Exactly. And then another thing, I love to just get some colors out and move them around on paper. I have some paints spread out here. We have some watercolors, and I'm going to give each of you a little brush to start playing. I do want to show you, this is kind of a fun little technique when you put your paints on.
Okay, a little blob will do you?
Yep, a little blob. Here, I'm going to cater to you here, Lou, with some Iowa State colors.
Okay, good.
And then
adding
just drop
some
a little bit of,
just
put a little something else on there. And then I want you to take that
a credit card?
Credit card and just scrape it and watch how those colors come together. Just scrape it. Pull it down. There you go. Now go this way with it.
Across.
There you go.
Yeah, that blending is really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
See,
look at that.
And it's exciting. You don't have to have no rhyme or reason as to why. You know, you don't have to be focused on an end result per se. It's just
That's pretty cool right
get
there.
out the colors and start moving them around on paper. Let them do the work. And when you're going to paint something, a lot of times people feel like they have to get that color perfect on their palette.
Like
I got to get that perfect green or what have you. And the best thing, what I like to do is I'll load my brush
just
up.
Keeps getting better.
And I will put, it does. See how those.
And here's some more creative artwork.
Because the magic happens in not necessarily what we are intentionally trying to do, but sometimes it's just that, you know, letting the paints work together.
Also, when you put three colors you like and blending them together like this is very interesting. You know, you could do any colors you like. If you like a little bit of the blinging gold, put some gold through there or something, and you're going to get a blending of the colors you like.
Yes,
very
and you have to have a sketchbook or just some papers that you can just kind of experiment and play around with. When you're using your, we're talking about how people want to have that perfect color that they've already got it all mixed out on their palette. You need this green. You're better off to take that green, add some white to it, load up your brush, and let the blending happen on whatever you're
Oh,
painting,
right.
because
That's a good
that's
idea.
what's going to give. So load up your brush, like put a little bit of green on one side and put some yellow on the other side. I'm one that when I paint, a lot of the time I'm not rinsing my brushes.
Here,
Right.
Scott, you do this one. Okay.
Between all of the different strokes, because that's where you get that interest. It's going to create some depth and texture. See how that's, then when you start using those colors, just one color, and not adding anything into it, it's flat. You end up with
love
a
that.
very
Oh,
flat.
he's putting gold
little
on there now,
gold
hey.
in there.
Okay, the Scott Dean creation. You want to see a creative mind at work.
It's just it's just fun to move it around, see what happens. You can work on scraps of wood, you can work on paper, your sketchbook. You can also, you'll notice, do you recognize any of the things on the table here
The
today?
little samples, the blocks, the samples.
Because fabrics are a great way to
Absolutely,
play
yeah.
around with color as
Okay.
well. So I take lots of the fabric scraps and you can create, again, this is playing with the color wheel, using that as your art prompt. That gives you some direction and it gives you an opportunity to
So you
look
sewed
at the
those
different
into a
colors.
wheel,
So we
basically.
just, I just took them all and then we use them for a variety of different samples and demos and different
Right.
things. But using that fabric and seeing how they kind of go together, it helps you with other decisions that you have to make when it comes to picking out colors for your house or maybe in how you dress and the clothes that you're wearing.
When you believe colors don't go together, like I wouldn't put that next to that, and then you start playing with it either on the color wheel or on a fabric wheel like this, then you go, wait, those two colors look good together, and it starts expanding your own creativity as well.
Yes.
And how do you know that the colors look good together? Is it a personal feeling that you have for that? Because some people don't.
It's when the client buys,
When the
then it's
cli-
perfect.
No, but will you get a feeling that, hey, I
So,
like
yeah,
that. I like
yeah.
it. Your own personal feeling. I like that.
Yeah, that looks good together. That makes me feel good. I mean, there really is something, but you have to be in tune with what are you feeling too.
Right.
Like, okay, does that go together? Is that going to look good together? So it just depends on what you're feeling at the time, and if you say I like that.
Okay.
In addition to textiles and fabrics to kind of put your colors together, I also like, you can take papers like magazine pages and start focusing on the pages that have, like you can see, these are ones we've cut out that kind of
Variety
focus on
colors.
the
Oh,
yeah.
greenery. And then what
Bear,
you can
Bear
do,
would love you right now for showing their color of the year.
color of the year here. But these are just pages out of a magazine that we've kind of stripped out, and then you can use these to apply to art projects and
So
so
you-
forth.
you try to match
this is
this
what's
to your
gonna
color.
create your
Okay.
color. This is what's going to, this is going to be your color.
This is going to be your
Yes,
color.
and then when you put all of these together, you get all kinds of interesting designs and textures and things, and it's just another, and it's that tactile, using your hands again, but this is going to be using paper. We would glue it onto whatever,
Okay.
brushing that on, and this is where your color happens. What I like to do too is design or set aside separate books and that are just for experimenting with different
So the
tools.
expression of color here can
So-
really make a difference to you.
Yeah, and again, it isn't just, you don't have to, it doesn't have to have an end game other than just a place to experiment with. Maybe you've got a new set of pastels, maybe you've got some new kinds of colored pencils that you're working with, and just, play with them on something. Capture that there. It's fun to look through and you can kind of keep adding to it and playing around with it.
Either with fabric or with paper. Even after your paper, you could cut these out and also make a book similar to this. You could also do some journaling over the top. You could create a really interesting book beyond just the colors. You could put
But it's
words
a
and
huge,
something.
it's a huge mood booster, stress reliever. Just
Just
having
by opening
that,
it up,
just
yeah.
to be able to look through
Yeah.
it, to have the things. I also we have mine's this because our studio environment's a little more rustic. But to create something that take all those colors, do a little research on what all of the colors kind of stand for and symbolize. This gives you, when you go to work on a project or you're decorating your house, you'll kind of zero in on colors. Like this one, yellow, very, it's all about creativity and confidence, friendliness,
happiness.
Green is restoration, balance, refreshing. So then when you're kind of selecting your colors, you're playing
Fertility,
along
wow.
with that as,
Didn't know that.
as well. So that can come into play and just it adds interest and story to whatever it is that you're putting together because you kind of have, the story behind what those colors symbolize and what they're good for.
Prosperity right
Yes,
there.
so
We
lots
need a
of
little
gold.
bit of
See, you
gold.
went straight
I
for
went
the
right for the
gold in
prosperity.
that. That's right.
Okay. I got it.
So have some color, have some fun with color out there. Scott, thank you again for joining us, sharing the color trends of 2020. Get out some colors that you have access to in your own home. Start moving them around on some pages, and you'll definitely feel a lot better off for it. So
And take somebody else's credit card and then do a
yes,
little color
this
mixing.
is the best way to use this. The best use for those credit cards.
You won't get in trouble.
In
Okay?
And it
your
won't
art
cost you
projects.
anything.
No, exactly. Lots of fun.